get started with the demonstration. So I figured I'd try to do something quite simple. And this is the Dragonfly. And he's really just, this one is just 2 pieces. And I inset the wing onto the body. So if you have a block of wood, the dimension to watch is the depth right here. And that's, you basically want a square piece of wood. And out of this particular piece, you could actually get 2 dragonflies. And once you get it, let's see, cut out, it's up to you to decide how much bend you want in the tail. You can make him real straight, or you could make it have a little bit of curve like this one does. And then the next dimension you need to watch is the body and the eyes. And you can over exaggerate the eyes to kind of get a look that has real bulgy eyes, or eyes that are about the same size as the body. And the eyes basically, and the body are what take up the majority of your dragonfly. So on this blank, you'll see that the eyes are here in this oval, and then the body is 2 segments right here and here, with the last one's going to taper like this. Let me get a slightly bigger version of that. So as you can see, this will be the eyes. This is the body segment. And then the tail is just a series of cones that form downward. And this one will have quite a pronounced curve to it. So once you get this laid out like you want it, then you're going to just basically match the side so that it has, again, the eyes where the body's going to be, and then the cones that form the tail. And everything's almost circular or oval shaped, and dimension with the exception of the eyes. And the eyes can be a little bit buggy. So if we're going to compare these two, this was the first drawing. And so I'm going to cut straight down and just make triangular wedges on this. And most of my work is done with a knife, and I do a lot of stop cutting. So I'm going to stop cut here and then take my knife and just wedge in. And just keep popping out basically little chips, and make sure you stop cut so that you don't cut in to this part of the wedge. So you're just going to make a bunch of square wedges. And on my sample, I actually drew the top and the bottom so I can kind of judge. And if I didn't want to cut quite so hard, I can do it in pieces, cut out the top and then cut the bottom and then go to the center. And I'm not pushing quite so hard. And I actually went down and made my stop cuts all the way around. So I have a stop cut here, one across here. That one's already carved, and then another stop cut here. So once you get your stops, and I'm going to make this one real quick right here, just so I have a reference. Once you get these stops done, then it's just a case of, and your wedge is made to the depth you're going to want. Then all you're going to do is start rounding over. In this case, you can see I've rounded here already. So I'm just going to round over on this side, on the body, and not quite so much, because our final dragonfly on the body, you will notice the body has the lip of one of the wedges. This is part of the body, so it kind of keeps a little bit of a lip there. So on the body, I don't want to cut all the way down to the end of that wedge. But you just start rounding over, and here, I know this is going to be below, so I've got to do the stop cut on the top. Same thing here. Same thing you did on the sides, you're going to do on the top and the bottom. So you have these little square cones. And then you can just round them off. The hardest part I had in doing this was trying to remember where I wanted my high spots at first on these cone that connects to the body. So once you get it down, then you just, if you keep the center line there, you know where you're carving to, and you put a center line down here, you know you've got to round into that center line. And I found as I get there, sometimes I can work one direction and then I have to work the other because I'll start splintering the wood a little bit. It depends upon how grainy your wood is.
This is basswood, right?
Yes, this is. Because I hand carve mainly basswood. So as you can see, just by gently, at this point, then I'm very just almost shaving the wood. If you can see, instead of big chips, they're just kind of little shaves to then get the rounded effect I'm after. And you'll do the same thing here. And then on the eyes, it gets to be a little trickier. And I literally just shave this one. I just tiny little shaves all the way around to get the look I want. And the eye, you split it just a little bit, not real deep here. And then you're gonna make kind of a little wedge right here so that there's some inward depth to the back of it. Right here, you'll see it literally, let's see if I can get something behind this to make it show up. There we go. They're just like two ovals stuck together. And there's an indentation at the back of the head. So this is the straight side-on view. And it kind of indents right here, down in. And just think of a couple of squish balls stuck right there. And on the mouth, down at the bottom, when you're carving, so let's see, this one, the mouth will be this way. So here's the mouth, and you want to keep this raised a little bit so that you get a, right here is the mouth, and it's a triangular shape. So on the, this is the bottom. So this is his mouth, and you can make it a variety of ways. You can just make it a little wedge right here, or you can make it elongated like this one is. And these are where the eyes are at. So if you can see right here, that area is kind of a reduced little triangle down in to form the back of the eyes. And then the mouth is literally just a triangle, but kind of a curved triangle on the bottom, like a teardrop. So this one's been all rounded over. Started out just basically, I did the wedges all the way around. And then you start rounding over. And the tail on a dragonfly is split. It literally is forked. And so you can either do that or whatever you want on the tail end of it. You could make it pointed. And I did sanding. I smooth it off to get it a little more round once I get it cut down. So it's a fairly simple project. You can start from a straight piece of wood, or you can do the bandsaw cutout. If you don't have a bandsaw, this is fairly easy to cut out with a coping saw. And if you're real talented, you could actually, with a saw, cut all the wedges, and then all you'd have to do is round off your squared off wedges. And I start with a little fat so that as I round, if I need to, I can cut in here at the top of the narrow part of the wedge. I can cut it down a little smaller if I'm not getting enough rounded effect. If I start out going real narrow at first at the bottom of the wedge here, you may run out of wood and actually end up snapping it off. So I kind of leave them fat to begin with till I get them all roughed out, and then I will narrow them down to the smaller look as I go. Because then the tail on these things is quite small. And it's easier once I get them mostly rounded than to just go across them and keep that roundness, but narrow it down so that it gets smaller and smaller. The widest part will be here at the top and right at the eyes. So those two are the widest, and everything else then just forms a narrowing effect, with the tail being almost even in its width as you go down. So this is one that the eyes are super wide on, and you're gonna mount your wings back here. And to make the wings, I went and had some veneer. It's just, I don't know what the thickness on this is. It's a sheet of about a thickness of about 2 or 3 pieces of paper. And I glued 2 of these together and you can then get a wing, or you can use 1/8 inch figured wood. This one's about 1/8 of an inch. And you can cut out your wing. The guys that do in Tarsa should have a lot of fun with this one. So your wing pattern can be done a couple of different ways. This is one wing pattern, and your grain needs to run this way on the wing. On your Dragonfly, the grain needs to run the length of the body so you don't snap the tail. So this one, the wing is one piece. You can make 2-piece wings. Pay attention to, look at a Dragonfly, and actually the bottom wing sits on top of the upper wing. So when you go to mount this one, pay attention to that. This wing seems to be above it. So you can make them. This is a vellum. You could make them out of paper or plastic if you want them to flap in the air and just glue them on. You could make them out of 2 to 4 pieces and inset them in a groove. Like I could make a little groove in here and inset the wings. And you could either inset them as a set like this, or 4 individual wings. What I did is I used the single wing pattern on the figured wood and just cut it out using a coping saw or a bandsaw. You could actually carve this. It wouldn't be that hard to carve the outline. And then I recessed it right here a little bit. I just took my gouge and just made a scoop and recessed it just a little. And this is out of the 1/8 inch wood. And then I recessed with the V tool right along in here just to get a good score. And then took my gouge and lowered this. So it's actually just barely, if you can see, it's just barely down. That's my knife hitting right there. So it's down maybe half the distance of the wood. So maybe a 1/16 of an inch or less right here. And then I rounded it over a little bit using the gouge and sandpaper. And that's one wing. And you can use your wood burner to emphasize it a little bit if you want. Now this is the bottom side, and this groove will be what fits on your body. This is the top side. And again, the bottom overlaps the upper wings. And you can use a wood burner to highlight or shade or do almost anything you want. And I would flatten this just a little bit right in the center and match these up. And then just super glue it down. You could use a little wood putty if you wanted to fill in the crack underneath if you felt you needed to. But that's so it's basically just 2 pieces. You can cut this and have a little tabs on them and make grooves and inset them to the side if you wanted to. So this one, this is the veneer, and this is 2 pieces of the veneer glued together. And when I go to put it on the body, it would have that look, and I wouldn't have to cut with the V tool. I wouldn't have to recess anything. And that would be one look. And this is that same effect with the 2 pieces out of the hard maple or whatever this was. It's a scrap I got from a friend. So, but as you can see, that one's much thicker. And I would probably sand this down considerably or carve it down so that it laid flatter with this and wasn't quite so thick. As you can see from I'm hoping you can see from the back to that side, there's quite a difference in the thickness. And the illusion of how thin something is based upon the edge. So if you're wanting to make the wings look really thin, but do them out of a thicker wood so they have some more strength, just make sure you taper down into the edge and make the edge as thin as you possibly can. And that will give you the look of the veneer if you wanted. The Intarsia guys could have a lot of fun making the wings out of different woods. This one, which was the first one I did, is made with the veneered wings. And I wood burned to get a little bit of shading in here. So that, and I wood burned a tad there. And then I also just shaded with the wood burner a little bit right back here at the segments to show what it's like. But this one has much more fragile wings. As you can see, I can wiggle them a little bit, and it's because they're veneer. And then on the underside, I also shaded. And then as you can see, I shaded right around the mouth a little bit and the back of the eyes. So does anybody have any questions?
That's awesome. What a great job.
Oh, nice.
Looks like a fun
Yeah,
little-
you know, and I think the more, yeah, it was fun and it was easy. You know, once I got it in my head which way the cones had to go and where the segments had to be. This one right here where the tail joins the body was the one that stumped me the worst, because I kept thinking the body had to taper all the way here, but it doesn't. You need to have that little shelf right there. Now, one of the things I wanted to show you, that one of the big differences between this one and this one is the amount of curvature in the tail.
Right.
Yeah, wow, I like that.
The curvature, you know, I actually cut this one out to have some curvature, but when I was carving, it seemed to have gotten flattened. So I didn't have quite as much curvature on the wood as you can see on the blanks. The little one had a lot less curvature, so it flattened more than the big one did. So you just kind of have to pay attention when you're carving that, oh, I need to carve more on the bottom than the top to get it to bend a little bit more maybe. So I can cut out blanks if anybody wants blanks. That's not a problem. I'll give you a blank that looks kind of like this, and you can go from there. They're real easy to cut out, and we have all that donated basswood sitting in my garage. So I've got basswood I can cut out, won't cost you anything, and I can either bring them to the April meeting, or you can come by and get them, or
Yeah, you
whatever,
should cut some out.
whatever you'd like to do. Okay.
Yeah.
And then, like I say, the Intarsia guys, I was thinking, boy, they could have a lot of fun making, you know, inlays in the wing, making them out of different wood, and how, you know, if they can veneer them. Or find a real pretty piece of wood. There are, unfortunately, it's clear up at Woodcraft and Rockler both have, but mostly Woodcraft has what they call thin wood, but you can find it on Amazon too. If you search 1/8 inch wood, I searched bird's eye maple is what I searched. And Woodcraft sells online a sheet of wood that's about, I'd say 5 inches wide, but the thickness, you can get it down to like 1/8 or even smaller. And that's what this is. This is 1/8 inch wood. And you could order, and it's 24 inches long. So a couple of you could go together if you didn't want to do a whole bunch of these. But you could cut out some beautiful pieces of wood for wings. And the one that's 24, you got to figure there's what, maybe 3 inches of wood and 5 or 6 long. So I know the wood on Amazon was running something, but if a couple of us went together and bought one sheet, we could get a lot of wings out of one of them. So,
And what's the thickness
or
on
you could find,
the wood?
this wood is 1/8.
Oh, 1/8, okay.
Yeah, and that's what I carved the wood out, carved it out of. Was
That's the maple you got?
pardon?
That's the maple that you got?
You know, a friend of mine down in Montesano makes guitars,
Oh,
and so he has all this marvelous wood. He's got a collection that you wouldn't believe, and he had some scrap. And so I got a piece from him that was probably about 12 inches long and 8 inches wide, and it was thicker than this. And I have a planer, so I ran it through the planer to get it down to roughly 1/8. But you can buy the thinner wood, and if you want cheaper wood and you need it run through a planer, you'll spend a lot of money to get it thin. This is the veneer, and I've got a bunch in the garage. Again, it came from Bob Harkness's place. He had a bunch of this veneer, and most of it's pine and natural wood. Some of it doesn't say what it is. It's all light colored like this though. And I'm going to show you on one here. Let me grab one that's too small to do what I want. This is a yellowed color, but it snaps real easy.
yeah.
And so that's why I glue 2 of them together. If I glue 2 of them together, I don't get quite this effect. And 2 together is maybe a 32nd. It's not very thick compared to let me get as close as I can.
Yeah.
If you can see, that's one and that's the other. So by putting 2 of these together, I can get a nice set of wings, and the thickness is dramatically different. This is one that's laminated, 2 of them together, and that's a plain one. That's the 1/8 inch that I sanded a little bit. So you can see they look a lot thinner. This one will have not much flex, but a little bit. I can wiggle it. And this one you can't move at all. So you can wood burn on these. That would be a marvelous design. You could, wood burn veins. You could drill holes in them. On the ones that are thicker, you could lay out a pattern of holes that you drill in these to give it that veiny look that dragonfly wings have, all the little veins that go through them. And if you search on the internet, dragonflies, wood dragonflies, or wood carved dragonflies, you will come up with a guy that made a dragonfly very similar to this. And then on the wings, he's got holes. He just filled it full of holes in a pattern. And they're great. It's a marvelous looking setup. The other thing you can do, and I'm going to screw this one up big time, but there's a method. you know, like you say modern art or you say impressionist. Well, there's a painting method out of the South American area, and it starts with an OXCA something or other. And they're these most intricate painted, this would be turquoise blue. And then there might be circles of yellow with dots in them. And it's a very specific style. And they do hummingbirds and insects and animals and all sorts of stuff. And it's how it's painted. And we've had one person bring one to one of our shows. And you could actually paint these in that style fairly easily. So there's lots you could do to finish them off in lots of different methods. You could stain the wings to be different. You could stain the body. So.
When I was wood burning my gourds, I think, well, my daughter has the gourd with all of the dragonflies on it, and you can, I used an opaque paint on the wings, and so that was really cool. You can get that too. It's so when you move, you know, the dragonfly, it looks like it's opaque, you know, it's opaque. So
Right.
That's something else you can do too.
Yeah, and you could get ones that have, like say, opaque and shimmer. Ones
Yeah.
that might
Or something
say that again.
like iridescent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. I would love to see one of those all done up in wood burning. It would take forever, but with all the veins and stuff, that would be so cool.
Yeah, you know, you can give the illusion, just like I say, the edge. If you make that super thin, you can get the same effect as so if you burn some veins but not all of them, you might get that effect. I'm going to show you if this will show up. That painting style I was talking about is OX. That's kind of what it looks like.
Oh,
It's
They did that in Mexico, too.
yeah, it's OAXACA.
Oaxaca is how you pronounce that.
Okay. I never could figure it out, so I never tried it.
if I saw one of those in my yard, I'd be running away.
Let's see if I can get, oh, here we go. So here are a series of dragonflies painted in that method. You can find them on eBay is where I'm at, but.
Wow, cool.
Come
Down
on.
for $55. Ooh.
So, and there they've inset the wings. As you can see, they went in on the side. And they didn't cone the body. It's mainly just carved and painted to give it the design. So there's lots of different things, but the main thing is the eyes and the tail is what you look for. And they only did a one segment body and a head. So there's variances that you could do that would make it work. As far as tools, I mainly used my knife. And it's one of the few I've ever done that's been 99% knife carved. I just used a nice sharp blade, and you can use the chisel a little bit to get down at the back of the cones to keep it as straight as you can and go straight down in. I used the gouge and the V tool just to give my marks, because the V tool made it easier to outline the back of that wing. So again, it's just a fairly simple setup.
Shannon, do you have a pattern for that you used?
Yeah, I do. In fact, I'll send it to Shelby and she can post it on Facebook. This is the body,
Okay, great.
and then this was the wings. And so
Okay.
the cutout, basically I just laid the body down on here and ignored where it recessed in right here to make the second segment, and just cut it smooth. That way I didn't have to worry about cutting in with a bandsaw real tight. And and then you can vary how much curve you put in. You can vary the length of it.
What's the thickness of that piece there? An inch? Is that an inch?
Yeah, it's about an inch or just a skosh over.
Yeah.
I'd say maybe an inch and an eighth. And then twice that width. These were a little bit more. If you can see, they're just slightly, oh, it's about the same size. So they're just slightly different, but whatever the width is, the depth right here, whatever this depth is kind of determine your circle. So if you wanted this to be bigger, you got to remember to have a deeper piece all the way around. So whatever you do, just basically start with a square that's as big as you want your eyes and your top part of your body to be. In this piece, the eyes will be the same width as the body, which was what this piece was. But on this one, I decided to experiment, and I started with a little wider piece at the front so that the eyes are out farther, but I don't like it as well. I think I prefer the one where the eyes are, and this one will get carved down so that the eyes are a little closer to the body size. In a Dragonfly, they're not quite that bulgy, and I didn't like this one. So if you want your eyes just to be slightly wider, when you cut it out, you just make sure you leave a little more wood right here, or narrow your body more, one of the two. And I found it extremely important when I was doing this to mark all the sides, not necessarily the bottom if you don't want to, but it helped when I was doing the stop cuts and going around it. I had cut this out, and then I drew this one on top, and then I just penciled marks this way so that when I got down here on the bottom, I was still in line with what I wanted to do. I wasn't angled this way. I didn't get an angular. This kind of stayed even.